Hi Ash,
Hey, how are you, Igor?
how are you doing? Yeah, I'm good. I'm doing good. Before we start, I'd like to thank you for your time because I know you're a very busy person. So thank you for sharing your valuable experience with us. And let's jump to the questions, if you don't mind.
No, great. I'm really excited to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor for me.
Cool. Okay, so before we start to the main topic, can you give us a brief introduction of what are your business interests now and where are you heading?
Great. So I'm based in Guangzhou, China, which happens to be the manufacturing hub of China. I think about 40% of all manufacturing in China takes place in the south of China, which covers Guangdong and a couple of other provinces around here. So I run a sourcing, quality control and project management company. So what we do is we can help people manage the risk when they're importing products from China. So we manage the whole process, right from finding the suppliers to doing the due diligence to signing Chinese contracts, doing the follow-ups and the project management, and finally the inspections and the logistics. I believe pretty much 90% now or 80% plus customers that we have are Amazon sellers. So that's one of the reasons why I'm really quite active in the Amazon community, and that's probably why we're talking today.
Actually, that sounds really impressive. And as far as I'm aware, you started as e-commerce seller. Can you tell me a little bit more about how did e-commerce become your starting point?
Sure. So I started bringing in some products from China and India when I was in the UK at that time. I was just starting university, and I set up an e-commerce business there, and it was a wholesale e-commerce business. So I wasn't actually doing any retail. I was bringing in stuff. I started off in India and then kind of moved on to China, and I did that for about 6 years. You know, that more than paid off for my university fees and a fairly decent lifestyle. And then we kind of came to a point where we felt that we have maxed out our growth, and as kind of with the economy in Europe, I thought, you know, it's time for something more challenging, and I finally decided to move to China and, you know, be on the other side of the fence after being an importer, and that's pretty much how I ended up here.
Nice. I would like to ask a lot of questions on how you started your e-commerce business, and but we don't have enough time. So what I would like to focus on right now is about challenges. What kind of challenges did you face at that time when you were importing products, and how did you like solve them?
Sure. So at that point, I think the biggest challenge was obviously the startup capital. You know, at that time I was still a student, so I started off at, I think I started off at like $5,000 for my first couple of orders. And I think an even bigger challenge though was the availability of information. So today you've got all these courses out there that teach you how to kind of get off the ground. You've got a lot of resources out there. The only resource that was there at that point, at that time, was Alibaba, which was kind of just starting to take off. It was still very new. This was about 12 years ago. And that's where I found my first suppliers as well. And I think that's still the case for a lot of importers.
Yep.
So the challenge was still quality control. At least me, I wasn't aware that there are services out there that could help me manage the whole process. For example, sourcing companies or inspection companies. Gradually, as I kind of got deeper into this world, I discovered these services exist, and I started outsourcing. So I believe I was taking on quite a bit of risk at that point. And I think that was the biggest challenge, really. It was also almost impossible to find factories to work with directly because so few people spoke English, and factories at that time, even now, they don't invest in sales and marketing so much, but at that time it was much worse, so we had to work through trading companies. So those were a couple of challenges. I mean, the good thing was the margins were really good at that time. There was very little competition, and you know, it was a good time to be in business.
What can you tell about nowadays? is it good time to start a business? And what is the best way to start a business right now?
Well, I personally feel there's never a bad time to start a business. It's about finding the right opportunity for the right time. So the only thing that changes, I think a lot of people talk about the market changing or the economy changing. The way I look at this is only the opportunity that's changing. So I think if you can find the right opportunity for the right time, and a lot of the barriers have been kind of eliminated over the last 10 years or so with technology. So you can be sitting in Ukraine and selling in the US and buying from China. So that was a big barrier back in the day. So I think this is probably the best time there has ever been to run a business, because you got all the resources at your disposal at very low costs.
Okay. Nice. So now you're helping entrepreneurs to source product, to make a quality control for them, for their products. Can you please share with our listeners what kind of service you provide? I mean, like maybe you can just share some tips and tricks that can just take right now and use with their current suppliers, or maybe they can use it when they will find a new suppliers.
Sure. So I'll start off with some of the lessons that I have learned, during my experience being in China and dealing with suppliers. So the first thing is, I find a lot of the importers, when they're importing products from China, the standard process is they would go to Alibaba, they'll start getting quotes for the product they want, and then they would shortlist the 3 cheapest suppliers, and then they would negotiate further with those suppliers and finally shortlist a supplier. So I personally feel that is a recipe for disaster, because that can lead to all kind of QC issues. So the process that we follow in very simple terms is we would come up with a product, we would define the quality standards for that product. And it doesn't have to be the best quality as long as you know your market. So if you want to be the cheapest buyer in your market, that's a very viable business strategy, as long as you're clear that the quality you expect is consistent with the pricing that you get. So I think that's very important. You define your quality standards upfront, and then when you source suppliers, you ask technical questions at the beginning, and you shortlist suppliers who are responsive, who kind of understand, and they're willing to meet your quality standards. And from those suppliers, once you've shortlisted 2, 3, then you start talking about price. So in short, price should come after quality and not the other way around. I see a lot of people doing this the other way around.
So what you're saying is that to be successful, I don't really need to have the best quality products. I just need to match quality with the price, right?
Absolutely. There are all kinds of business models out there that work. If you look at the supermarket, for example, there are supermarkets like Aldi and all. Their business model is very much price and volume based, and they are fairly successful. And then you've got supermarkets or stores like Whole Foods that are very much premium. They're kind of catering to the higher end of the market, and they are fairly successful as well. So I think the important thing is once you've decided on a business model, to ensure that all the components of that business model are kind of in tune with your core business strategy. So if you're going for the low price, high volume market, then everything, whether it's your pricing, whether it's your quality, whether it's your sourcing process, should be aligned to that objective.
Okay, let's talk more about how did you start your current company? How did that happen?
Sure. So when I came to China, to be honest, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do.
6 years ago, yes? 6 years ago.
That's right, yes. 6 years and 6 months ago, to be precise now.
Nice.
So when I came here, I just knew I wanted to be in China, because China was always in the news. Every time you open the newspaper or went online, you'd read something or the other about China and how amazing it is and how fast it's changing. So I was just curious. So I kind of came to Beijing first. And then after spending a year there and absolutely falling in love with the city, I kind of found out that it was the wrong place to be for international trade. So I decided to move to Guangzhou, which was hard for me because I still think Beijing is probably the best city that I've ever lived in. But I came to Guangzhou, found out it's the manufacturing hub, visited lots of wholesale markets. And then at that point, we kind of started out with IMEX Sourcing Services with a very raw business model. We were just desperate to find anyone who wanted to bring something in from China and, do something for them. So I pretty much did everything that we as a team do now, right from packing boxes to carrying out inspections in factories, to doing the online customer service. So that was how we started. Fortunately, from there on we grew. There was, since we started out, we've grown at we grew at 100% in the first 4 years and about 60% last year in terms of our turnover, and that's primarily been because of the boom in the e-commerce space, and especially Amazon. The last 4 years, we kind of started noticing that a lot of our inquiries were coming from Amazon, and we kind of made a conscious decision to completely focus on that market, and that's when things really took off for us. And that's what we really do now. We kind of differentiate ourselves from a lot of sourcing companies out there, in the sense that we focus primarily on e-commerce customers, and Amazon customers are a large part of that. We are also, one of the things that I'm really excited about now is one of my really good friends and partner, Will Chernlin, who is probably one of the most well-known guys in the Amazon community. We're starting out a new venture very soon, which is a mastermind group for high-end Amazon sellers, and that's kind of transitioning a little bit away from our business, but it's something we're very excited about. We're kind of trying to bring together successful Amazon sellers and strategize how we can kind of take them to the next stage.
Yeah, sounds really nice. I remember how you introduced me to Will. He's a really nice guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wish he would come to Ukraine for forum, but maybe next time.
I'm sure he was quite excited about it, but unfortunately he couldn't make it this time. But I'm sure we'll kind of pull him next time, okay. And I'll pull him in.
But I've bet that you have lots tips and tricks that you're going to share with us on the Amazon event forum in Kiev. Can you talk more about what are you going to share with us?
Sure. So I was planning to talk about some of the lessons that I've learned sourcing in China. We kind of just went over one quick point, but there's a lot I believe that I could share on that subject. We made a lot of mistakes being in China, dealing with factories, and we've learned a lot through a trial and error approach when we first started out, and eventually we were able to systemize and put processes in place to avoid those mistakes. So I love to talk a bit more in depth about those issues so people could learn from our mistakes and kind of not repeat those mistakes. So that's what I'm most excited about talking, I guess. Yeah, the lessons we've learned and the mistakes we made.
Nice. I think it should be really, really interesting topic to discuss. Okay, that's actually what I wanted to talk with you today. And I'm and Ash, we advise you, our listeners, to go to Amazon forum page and register for the event to not miss out useful information to improve your business. So thank you, Ash, for your time and sharing your experience, and see you at the forum.
Great, thanks Igor. Thanks for inviting me. I'm very excited about being at the forum, and I hope to see you there very soon.
Yeah, see you, man.
Okay, take care. See you.
Take care.
Bye.